right, so Matt's not here today, so I didn't actually know how to start the pod, but I realized that we actually record the intro at the end of the pod, but I haven't been
They're
here
not
so
supposed to know that. They're supposed to think that we flow so beautifully right into the podcast.
Well, I let them in the back door.
Now they know. It's all about
Don't put the ball on the tee.
It's all about
Don't put the ball on the tee.
The authenticity.
I had to. Anyways, so before we dive in, or I guess I'll do that later. Can we cut that part real quick?
No, it's fucking funny. Leave it.
I was gonna say share our shit. Today we're gonna talk about Flations. So we have inflation, which everybody already knows. We really don't need to talk about that too much. But the Hustle came out with a little snippet today. Hustle is not a sponsor yet.
But we are working hard to get Sam Parr on
So
our
if anybody
podcast.
knows Sam Parr, can you like tag them, tag him, like, and say like you should go on professional development?
Yeah.
When you're sharing all of our shit that we ask you to share.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect. Thanks. So we're doing the Flations. So they came out with a snippet today on Greedflation. I sent that over, and it became our topic for today. So there's Greedflation, there's Stagflation, and then there's something called Shrinkflation, in addition to obviously, again,
Masterflation.
So what's that?
Just another form of inflation.
You can put anything in front of the word inflation.
Yeah. Masterflation. Golflation.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so I guess with that, I don't have any quotes today.
No,
This is a tough one because
yeah, no.
like there's no quotes on
It's a new thing.
Greedflation. It's kind of a new word.
I didn't do any quotes either. If you want me to just kind of jump in on Greedflation, I will.
Yeah, we can start there.
So I didn't actually read what Dan sent because I think it was just a screenshot. I don't think it was actually like a fucking link to read anything.
Yeah,
I read that.
Okay. So, but I think from what I understand, Greedflation is basically where companies are trying to raise the prices, even though in their industry where inflation has not been as strong of a number. So this is actually something new that's kind of happening pretty much since COVID. It seems to be more of a political gain than it is an actual real terminology for something that's happening. And you want to keep going?
No, yeah, I was going to say, like, just to summarize, raising prices without your cost of goods actually going up.
Yeah.
But doing it because you have an excuse to do it with the market, and, you know, you can use an excuse like supply chain, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
But it's not actually affecting you.
Yeah. So the case for greedflation is inflation rose and consumers became disconnected of what like a benchmark level of inflation was. It was like, okay, everything costs more and you're not sitting there being relative to, well, how come this isn't in line with this? So you lost your benchmark. Essentially, they're saying that companies are taking advantage of the users because it's an opportunity for them to raise their profits. And profits of 2,000 publicly traded companies last year rose well above pre-pandemic levels. So that's your case for greedflation. Now, your case against greedflation is price gouging is not needed to explain inflation. It just happens. COVID disrupted supply chains, like Dan said. Russia invading Ukraine affected food and energy, and stimulus bills left Americans with more money and less products. So there was more people out there trying to buy less product. Essentially, supply versus demand. So those are your cases for it. An indicator that I saw that shows that greedflation really is not a true thing is healthcare prices. So healthcare prices historically have always rose higher than the rate of inflation. In the last year, healthcare prices have been slower than the cost of inflation. So I thought that was interesting because if there's one industry that I feel like would try and take advantage of this right now, it would 100% be the healthcare industry. And also, something that's interesting about it is inflation has remained high at 9%, new record levels, where they're saying, oh, look at these companies. They're making more money. They're more profit. They're screwing us over. The S&P has dropped more than 20% in the last year. So how do you combine those two? And earnings reports for all these big, large corporations are coming in lower than expected. So that's where I feel like greedflation is just kind of like Matt would say, a woo-woo word right now.
Well, I think that it definitely could happen.
Yeah.
You know, and I definitely think that, you know, if people are willing to pay more, I guess my big question on it is how close is this to like the supply demand thing or the Econ 101, right?
Yes.
If I am running out of a product, but there's a million people that want to buy it, but I only have 5 of them, I could raise that price 10 times, and there's somebody in that group of million that will pay whatever the fuck I want for it.
And
So-
I have that wrote down, not to like mow your grass
No, yeah, you're
here, but price is the best way to allocate scarce products. Like that's the only way that you can allocate that correctly is you have to keep raising prices until there's people that aren't willing to pay that amount. So I feel like this greedflation is literally just supply versus demand.
Yeah, well, they said so. MasterCard and Visa, for example, raised their transaction fees, and everybody's like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" You know, like, why would you do that? That's greedflation. So that they're the ones kind of with the magnifying glass on them. And so I could see that because you're selling, if you're selling like a software or something that's not like a hard product, how do you say, well, supply chain or, but what I thought about that a little bit more and think about the labor prices.
Yeah.
Like labor's gone up 4.1% or so over the last year. So you have to run this business, your operational costs, energy costs to run the business. All this shit is going up a little bit. So while I do agree that it's there, it's also probably kind of a thing for people to point at companies and say, bad on corporate, but also corporations have a duty to the shareholders to make as much profit as possible.
So something that I found interesting about all this greedflation talk is it's the reason it's more of a political aspect is they're trying to pass bills that are going to cap how much corporations can charge on situations, which to the naked eye is like, oh, that's cool. Like gas shouldn't cost this much, right? Well, that's just like almost the start of socialism where it's like, okay, well, what happens when that good does get scarce? Who's going to get that first? And how come in a capitalist country that if Dan or Bobby or somebody who owns a business wants to charge more, if there's people willing to pay that, there should be nothing wrong with that. And like Dan said, I think there is industries where this probably is happening, like maybe in the the e-commerce sector like you're talking about there. But there's also industries that are probably suffering from it as well that are having to eat those costs. Like say you're a small mom and pop shop that uses Square and they've raised their fees for your credit card processing. Well, who's that hurt? That they're going to raise their prices, so then it ends up always hurting the end consumer at the end of the day. I think overall, greedflation is a little bit of bullshit, and I think it's a political play to change some things around.
Yeah, well, so kind of push that a little bit further. What about the companies that technically have a monopoly, like your local utility company or your local trash? I guess you could choose a different trash provider, but these utilities, because technically it's illegal to have a monopoly on like I can't be the only shoe sales person in St. Louis. But if Ameren raised their rates, or is it Spire now? I don't even know.
It's both.
So
one's electric, one's gas.
Okay, so either of those are like the only. Do you know of any other providers? If you were to say, "Hey, fuck you, I want electric from someone else," where do I get that?
I have no idea.
I have to pay what they're telling me I have to pay, and there's probably regulation on that. So I would agree with you have to.
Yeah.
Like at some point you have to have a cap.
So where are we seeing things? I guess just because I can just think of certain things that I've spent money on, but this hasn't been something that's been top of mind or even I've thought about at all until this was brought up today. So is there anything specific that people should be looking out for where rates are going up, where they should be looking at other companies to purchase things from?
Well, so before we dive into that, there's the other flation that I wanted to talk about was shrinkflation, which is kind of a really interesting one to me because it happens to me.
When you get out of the pool.
Just in general, he doesn't need to be in a pool.
So shrinkflation's when companies will keep the same price, but they'll put less in the package. And a lot of times the package is staying the same. So
so is this when you get like a bag of fucking Sun chips and there's like 4 fucking chips in there?
Yeah.
That is exactly it.
That should happen to me.
So yeah, I have a couple of examples. I did want to tee it off though. How much, and this is a little sidebar, right? With shrinkflation, okay? Because toilet paper has been hit by shrinkflation. And I was wondering, how much money do you think it costs to take a shit? Like wiping, and good thing the internet already did the research. So I'm just curious, how much toilet paper do you think you consume per shit?
There's no way it's more than
dollars?
a nickel.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Like per shit? Like I don't know.
Per shit.
I mean, I think I'm kind of wasteful with the toilet paper because I'm not like a folder or anything neat. I
Dude,
just
my
like,
wife
I
is
just
like half a roll.
Oh yeah, girls are the
To
worst.
pee.
Do you just now? Are you guys bunchers or folders?
Oh, I'm for sure a buncher. I just bunch that shit up,
I
wipe
roll
it,
front to back or back to front.
front to back. Yeah, balls to butt.
Oh,
So, wait, okay, this might be way
This
off
is-
topic. This might be way off topic.
I'm the
but
weirdest with this shit.
Okay, I have to know this because
I have a bidet.
I've had this.
No, I don't.
Dude, oh damn!
Now, when you guys wipe your ass, okay, this is going way wrong. Are you like a leaner?
is
Like,
poop-
do you like lift
this
the
is
cheek
poopflation.
and swipe, or do you do a full stand up?
I lean. I'm a leaner.
Oh, I swipe. I go underneath like
No,
this.
you
I
don't.
swear to God, I hold up.
How?
my,
What if your hand
I,
hits
I,
the
I,
water?
show.
What if your hand hits the
You
fuck-
don't let it hit the water. You don't let it hit the
That's
water.
a
You
risk
lean
I'm
up
not
a
willing
little
to
bit,
take.
You hold up your
That's a
sack
risk
and all
I'm
that
not
stuff,
willing to take.
and then you get a clean wipe, and you don't.
Who
Have,
the fuck taught you how to wipe your ass?
I think I taught myself.
That's not a risk I'm taking.
Yeah. Well, it's a wipeflation. Hey, this is gonna be an Instagram reel, and I'm fully prepared.
Yeah,
for that.
this is wipeflation.
This is wipeflation for sure.
Less toilet paper, same price. But no, I was wondering. So, you have a guess, Sal?
Do you have? Is it a breakdown per square?
No, per shit.
Per shit.
shit.
Yeah, they have the average.
I'm gonna say per shit's like $2.37.
That
$2.37.
I was gonna say.
Are we talking about like our time? Or are we talking about just the product?
No, we're
No.
talking about just the price of how much
How
toilet
much toilet paper
you're
do you use
using.
in dollars?
Oh,
per shit?
Like,
okay.
it's
I'm
gotta
gonna
be
say
between 5 and 15 cents.
okay. If
That's
it's
my
REITs, what'd you say?
I said, but it's gotta be between 5 and 15 cents.
Okay, I'm gonna go lower. I'm gonna go like 3 cents.
I'm gonna say 48 cents.
Wow, that's an expensive turd. No, it's 6.5 cents to 10.8 cents depending on
If you
your
use the good
preference.
shit.
Are you going 2-ply, 3-ply,
You gotta go
single
with that.
ply, Brad?
No, you
gotta
have
get the
you gotta
Charmin
go
Ultra.
toilet paper.
Dude,
Something
there's-
you
you gotta
invest
get that
in. You gotta have
There's
good toilet paper.
nothing
You need
worse than
to-
going somewhere that has single ply.
Yeah.
You had a business idea.
I did. I don't
Yeah,
know.
the poop.
Oh yeah,
The-
that's a great business idea.
The bathroom
But we
locator.
but now I want to add to it. I want to put the quality of the toilet paper, not just the
Oh, yeah.
cleanliness
Yes, yeah.
A lot of factors go into a good bathroom.
Yes.
I told the guys at work about that idea and they loved it. I think we need to reach out to Dude Wipes. You could sponsor us too. Great idea
Yeah.
we have.
We
So-
should probably throw a patent on this ASAP.
On how to
Okay.
wipe her ass? Or
So back to
I'll leave that.
shrinkflation. So Angel Soft is an example. They used to be 425 sheets. Now it's 320 sheets per roll for the same.
Wait, where did it go? Sorry, say again.
425 to 320.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's like a 25% decrease, but you're paying the same price. And
Yeah.
then Doritos did take Lessier Doritos out of the bag. So all chips probably did that. Now it's just a bag of fucking air.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, dude.
bullshit. They
Yeah.
sell you this big fucking bag that is, it's like this big, and you're like,
same-
look at all these chips I'm getting, and there's this much
It's
chips
the
in
same
it.
Dude, you know
size.
what? You know what brand is the worst in their St. Louis is Red Hot Ripples.
yo,
Dude,
yo,
I
they
was
are the
thinking
worst.
that.
Really?
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
I
don't disrespect the Red Hot.
No, Red
Riplets,
Hot
okay?
Riplets are fantastic, but
Could they be
they
a sponsor?
absolutely
They could be a sponsor.
They
Okay.
they
We won't-
Old Vienna.
we'll delete this
That's
when
the
we
I
sponsor
love,
us.
right
I
there
love
in
Old
Fenton.
Vienna. Old Vienna, you guys are the best.
And then
Fucking
Maybe a
so
sponsor.
I do have a couple stats too, Dan, on shrinkflation. It says a 10% product size shrinkage is equal to an 11% price increase. So you said that that was a 25% decrease in toilet paper. So they essentially raised the price 25%, or no,
Gatorade
more
done
than that.
Gatorade's
Yeah,
done
25%. Close
So
to that.
so you're saying they charge more for less.
Exactly. It's just how
Okay.
it equals out to. So
I thought the price may stay the same. And
no. What I'm saying is if they shrink the product size by 10%,
yeah.
it's equal to if they would have kept the size the same and raised it 11%.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. So I looked for the first example of shrinkflation, and I actually heard a story about it, but I couldn't confirm it on the internet. But it was pickles was the first that I heard of, where some guy bought a pickle company and they needed to figure out how to make more money. So he took one pickle out of the jar of every jar, and then 2 pickles, but the jar stayed the same. I mean, you can't really tell when you look at it. So, but then we found, Sal and I had found on the internet that coffee in the 80s went from like £1 per thing to 400 grams for the same price. And so that was kind of the first like official shrinkflation.
This is like when people cut their cocaine that they sell with baby powder.
Same thing.
Yeah, very
I
simple.
keep,
That's,
I'm always thinking
shrinkflation.
about like the Subway foot long, how it's not always a foot long, it's always like 10 or 11 inches.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
You
Man, if
measure
that's
it?
10 or 11 inches.
Wait, so you've measured a foot long? but you
no,
haven't
I've seen an
measured
article
your
of them
dong.
talking about
Oh man, he probably wouldn't even spend $5 for that hooker.
Dude, they don't talk about $5 foot longs anymore.
No.
Those days are gone.
No.
Legal fees on Jared.
Inflation.
And something that is interesting about shrinkflation is that I feel like it definitely hits like the grocery industry more than anything, is like food and stuff like that. A way you can kind of keep your eye on shrinkflation is to look at unit prices. Obviously, if you look at a gallon of milk is a gallon of milk. So if you see the price going up, it's obviously not like they're cutting the size of the package. But something like Cocoa Pebbles, they could cut it. Your cereal, your rice, stuff like that. That's not a common size. So look at that. And half of all grocery purchases are unplanned. So there's a lot of wasteful money that's going into grocery purchases as well.
That's
Well,
interesting.
Is that one of? So were you just talking about like if you look at the unit price, like, or have you seen that before at the grocery store? It says like per fluid ounce.
Yeah, that's exactly
what
what
you're
I'm talking
referring to.
about.
Okay. I have looked at that before, where it's like, all right, you can get this smaller size, or if you get this bigger size, it's actually going to save you like 3 cents per fluid ounce or whatever it is.
I mean, people do that with like Starbucks or like any fast food restaurants. Like, oh, do I get a small or a medium or a large size drink? Small and medium is always the same volume of water.
Well, there was a guy
The
that
same volume of
like
drink.
said, if you buy a small, I forget who it was. It was like a famous guy too. But basically, all Starbucks drinks are kind of the same. They just put more ice
Yeah.
Yeah. I
in
think I've
each
seen
one, and they like went after him, and he had to quit saying it. But yeah, so with shrinkflation, to that point, Bobby, I did like, how do we fight it? So they say if you buy store brand versus name brand, they're typically the last brands to reduce the
size.
content of the package, and then compare price per ounce versus just grabbing something off the shelf. So,
Yeah.
But at
those are
that
two
point,
tips.
then would you consider quality over quantity then?
I mean, they always say it's like the same thing as far as if you get the Sudafed versus Wall-Fed from Walgreens, or the Schnucks ibuprofen, which is Advil ibuprofen is stupid expensive.
Yeah.
Like $10 different than your like store brand.
I will
But
say, I think Advil works.
Yeah,
better.
but I mean,
It's the same thing.
yeah, but that.
Well, maybe it does. I don't know.
Well, no, that's what my wife keeps telling me, but
Well,
Advil.
that's
I
think
similar,
you
but
need
I'm
the
saying like
liquid gel
store
cap.
brand
What
toilet
is she saying
paper.
is the same thing?
Advil versus store brand.
Well, I mean, it's the difference compared to like, let's say, we use that toilet paper example. Like, store brand would probably be 1 ply, while like name brand would probably be double ply or triple ply.
Well, I think the very different things as far as medicine versus toilet paper, where that's very noticeably different. I don't know. It's kind of hard to judge on that, but I don't know. I feel like there's certain things that I go name brand on for sure, where I'm like, I'm not gonna buy Schnucks brand that.
Yeah.
If I'm buying syrup, you bet your ass I'm getting fucking Aunt Jemima's. I said it, Aunt Jemima's. I ain't getting no Schnucks syrup. You got to get that real Mrs. Butterworth's. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I just did a quick search, by the way, on the toilet paper thing. The most expensive roll of toilet paper is 22 karat gold toilet paper.
Boy.
And in 2007, it was 1.376 mil for a roll. Now it's 1.5 mil.
Of just gold toilet paper.
It's some shit they're doing over in like
Saudi
Saudi
Arabia. Or
Arabia.
something. Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
That's what the live golfers are wiping their ass with
on the plane.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the other one was Stagflation. So I don't have too much on this. What do you have, Brad?
I don't have a lot on stagflation. It's basically persistent high inflation, which is something we're dealing with. But it also has to have a high unemployment with stagnant demand for employment. So Dan will be the first one to tell us once stagflation is about to hit. This usually happens during an economic slowdown. So at the current time, we don't have stagflation. Right now, we're not in a stagflation moment. The Fed we could see this happening towards the end of the year into 2023. And a lot of people, the indicator is the Federal Reserve, basically, they're trying to control inflation first. And that's what typically happens, raising interest rates. When you typically start to see the effects of it is about a year after the fact. So I don't know, when's the first time we raised rates? 6 months ago, or was it not that long ago? 3 months ago? But so we're in the process of where we could see this happening, but we need to see an unemployment issue, which will be Dan's expertise.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be very difficult. I've been monitoring this closely because that's the only shoe that has to drop for us to be in stagflation.
Yeah.
Do you think it usually happens during like election times, stagflation?
No.
I think a lot of stuff just happens during election times. It's not normal. I think that's why we're hearing about greedflation.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, we could. That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. But when I look at unemployment, so you are seeing layoffs, and that's something we could be talking about on a current events topic. But all these companies that are laying off, if you look at them, they're like startup type environments. Even if they're publicly traded, whatever, they're all spending they're burning cash to acquire customers. And so now money is not cheap anymore because rates are going up. So they're laying off because they need to hit that profit switch as quickly as possible. So all the layoffs that are happening are by companies who are burning cheap money, basically. And so I haven't seen it happen. And I mean, Ford did it, but Ford announced a layoff. But I think overall, you have a lot of people that if they were to get laid off, they're going to retire. We have a lot of boomers working still that are close to retirement. There's also, a huge shortage of skilled labor, whether that's, high-level accountants all the way to carpenters, whatever it is. And then we have all these people that don't want to work, it seems like. And then you have people just quitting their jobs, the great resignation that we've talked about. And so all these things put together, it's like, I don't see that happening. And I actually think there's going to be a sweet spot where if there were layoffs, it would help my business because we would have more talent to place. Like we still struggle to find people who are interested. So I think it's going to be hard to get there. Maybe if I were to predict though, I think a year, July of 2023 is going to be really interesting.
And something that I think is interesting, I mean, me and Dan have talked about this off air, is he's talking about burning cheap money. A lot of people are doing that right now, and they have to find a way to curb that, which ends up being usually employment is the quickest way to cut your, bottom line. I think in the next year, what we're going to see is people who are cash heavy that could go liquid if they had to are going to be the most successful. I think the people that you're going to see really struggling here are the companies that are right in the middle that have leveraged a lot of debt. I think the people who are already established are going to be in a really good spot. And I think the guys that are your 1-2-man shop that don't have a lot of overhead are going to be very strong. And they're going to pick up those pieces of the people in the middle. And then the people who are on the top side of that middle sector, they're going to get picked up by the larger corporations. So I think it is going to be an interesting year with inflation. I think it's only bound to happen that we will hit stagflation at some point. Like we're going to have an economic turndown.
Well, I saw some stat that if we could get out of this if we did 10.1% unemployment for 1 year, but that would be like the worst of all time. Like it would be such an extreme situation. So it's interesting to see the different layers. But the Fed's job is to slow down inflation, they need higher unemployment. So they might be pushing for it. So, that's all I got.
That was a lot of inflation today.
That was a lot of inflation.
I feel bloated.
Nice.
Shit. All right. Well,
Sal, you earned your keep for next week. Good one.
One good joke. Nice. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening. Again, like, subscribe, do all the shit, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Later.